That's it now for constants. Let's have a look now at what we call keywords. Now, keywords in C++ is essentially a set of names, for example, names that you would use to name a constant that you define, or a name that you would use to define function name. And these are words which are reserved in C++. Basically, they're predefined and they're being used for something else generally, and we cannot use them for our program in any way. So these are the reserved names, and they each, like I mentioned, they have an intended purpose generally, meaning that you cannot take that name and use it for something else because that will, in fact, confuse the compiler. The compiler won't know what to do, and you'll normally get an error. As you can see, some of these we've already seen. We talked about namespace, data type names such as int, double. We looked at, let's see, wchar underscore t. So there are quite a few of these that we have seen already, and many that you haven't seen, but that you will definitely see later on. You don't need to memorize these for now. Normally, when you try to use them, the compiler will be happy to let you know that there's a problem. So let's move on. And let's see a few examples of what would be valid and what would be invalid. So we've got here some valid names. So for example, you could use set text color. This could be used for a function that changes the text color, of course. And you could use, for example, this here for a constant or a variable. We'll go further into variables later on, but you could use this to name a constant or whatever you wanted. And these are all valid names. In and then we get some invalid ones down here. So if you were to use true, for example, generally we use true as the value for a Boolean data type, so it can be true or false, right? So if you started to name something as true, the compiler would look at that code and not know what to do. So it would trigger an error. And that's the way that you have to think about it. How is the compiler going to be able to interpret your code if you are using predefined values? And that's where the issues arise. So this is something definitely to bear in mind as you're coming up with names, and there'll be a lot of that during the creation of your programs.